So welcome to the second eTwinning online seminar, and today we have the theme eSafety in eTwinning. And for today, we have two excellent speakers. We have Sabrina Vorbau and Karl Hopwood. And Sabrina is a project administrator at European SchoolNet, and currently she's coordinating eSafety label project and Where We Want, and she's often in eTwinning events as a speaker about eSafety and these issues. Karl Hopwood is also an eTwinner, and he also participated in eTwinning trainings and courses, online courses, in the modules of eSafety and using the best, taking the most out of the internet. That was the topic of his module. And but he's also an eSafety expert and InSafe network helpline coordinator. And today they will give us several insights on InSafety and eTwinning. So with no further ado, I will give the floor to Sabrina.
Thank you very much, Ruth, for this kind introduction, and good to meet everybody of you. I hope you can hear me well. As already kindly introduced by Ruth, Karl and me, we work for the Digital Citizenship team here at European SchoolNet. And our team, we are working on several projects in regards to eSafety and digital skills. For anybody of you who is very active on social media, you can also find both of us on Twitter. And also, if you have any particular questions afterwards, also feel free to tweet us anytime. We are talking about a very important topic today, eSafety, and this is something that over the past years has become very important for everybody of us, because the internet has become a very big thing in our ordinary life. And I would like kind of to kick off this discussion this evening. And you will see later in some topics we picked out in regards to online safety, that when we are talking about eSafety and when we are talking about the internet, different generations define this topic in different ways. So, for example, when we are talking to very young children that are going to primary school or kindergarten, and we ask them the question, what is for you the internet? Most of them, they answer us, for example, with YouTube, because they're most likely watching a lot of videos online. Maybe some of them are also playing some games. And we know that very young children are already very comfortable with carrying around these heavy devices. Some of them maybe are not in the age that they can speak or write properly, but they already know how to switch on and switch off, for example, a tablet, how to swipe left or right, so on and so forth. If we then, on the other hand side, go to the teenagers and young adults, and we ask them what is for you the internet, how would you define it? The majority of them most probably answers social networks, such, for example, Facebook, but also applications like Snapchat, or Instagram are becoming more and more popular. And when we are asking the older generation, for example, if I would ask my parents, what is for you the internet, they would answer, for me the internet is Google. It's about finding things online. And so we see that there's a difference in the over the age generation and how we are defining the internet, what we are doing when we are going online. And with some of the examples I've already given to you, we know that the internet brings a lot of advantages with it. We can get a lot of information from the internet. We can also improve our digital skills, but on the other hand side, with all these advantages also come a lot of challenges. And we picked out a variety of topics for you this evening, kind of like the most recent topics and topics that are constantly in discussion. But to kick off the presentation, we will give you a short introduction about what is actually eSafety. Then we will talk about digital distraction. We are talking about a very constant topic that's always in discussion, which is cyberbullying. We will talk about online relations. We will talk about big data, and then we will also talk about copyrights. And in order for me and also Karl to already a little bit understand how familiar you are with eSafety and what are you doing in regards to online safety, I would like to kick off our conversation with 2 poll questions. And the first poll question would be, do you already teach online safety in your classroom? Very easy. You just have to press yes or no. So I see already that the voting is going on. So I see that it's most likely looks like that a majority of you, most of you already teaching on online safety. Over 50%. I think we're going between 60, 70%. Now it's 60 to 40. Okay, so I think some of you are already familiar, some of you not. So I hope with the information we are giving you tonight, that's very helpful for you in order to start the online conversation into your classroom and find some good materials also that you can exercise together with your students. Another poll question, and it's also very simple. You just have to answer with yes and no. It's out of interest for us. Do you know the Safer Internet Center in your country? Here again, yes and no. I think it looks like that the majority does not know for the moment their Safer Internet Center in their country, which I think it's very helpful for us to know, because when we're talking about eSafety, I think Karl will also say a couple of words about our national contact points, because they are supporting us very much in the work we are doing with the resources we are producing, so on and so forth. So I see that the majority does not know the Safer Internet Center in your country. That's very helpful. Thank you very much. And this is the occasion for me to give the floor to Karl, who will start talking about what actually eSafety is all about.
Thanks very much, Sabrina. Hi, everybody. I hope you can all hear me okay. I think eSafety is an absolutely huge area, and I think it's something that pervades, every aspect of what we do in schools. My background is that I used to be a teacher, and now for the last probably 9 or 10 years, I work in schools pretty much every day. I was in a school this morning working with students, trying to sort of educate around eSafety. And I think certainly in many schools, eSafety used to be sort of thrown into the remit of the ICT coordinator, whoever was in charge of computing and so on. Are some people struggling to hear? I'm just not sure whether I'm actually getting across okay. Maybe if somebody can tell me, that would be good. I just don't want to keep talking if people can't hear. Yeah, so I think for me, eSafety, it's a whole school issue. As I say, it used to be very much in the lap of the computing teacher or the ICT teacher, but I do feel that it's everybody's concern. And as you can see from the image that's on the screen there in front of you now, I think one of the things that there's a lot of concern about at the moment is the sort of obsessive use of technology. which I think is often, putting a real barrier between, communication, not just between parents and children, but also between children and their peers. So I think, it's a huge area, and as Sabrina said, we've chosen a few sort of areas that we think would be useful, we think would be interesting. And if you do decide to sort of join the main e-learning event, which will be in April, we'll go into these in a lot more detail. It's actually not a joke that in some parts of the world, you'll see that we actually have we've gone to the extent where we've drawn lines on the pavement, on the footpath, so that people can be using their mobile devices, people can be texting without the fear of banging into somebody else or being knocked over and so on. And I think anybody who's walked around in a city centre can't fail to have seen people so engrossed in what they're doing with their technology that they're just perhaps not aware of the world around them. So the research that you can see on the screen now, that this was some work that was done in October, November last year. It was a project that was done in America looking at sort of cyber balance and digital distraction. I apologize, it's Friday night. And I think, if 44% of teens are actually admitting that, technology interferes with their sleep, I think that is a problem, because if 44% admit it, I think the actual figure is probably higher. But I do think it's very interesting that a quarter of adults are saying the same thing. And I think sometimes when we get eSafety wrong in schools, it's because we go in and sort of talk at young people and pretend that they're the only ones with the issue, and yet clearly that isn't the case. You can also see there 37% of teens said, devices interfere with their regular day-to-day activities, but actually 30% of us said the same thing. So I think there's some real challenges here, and I think eSafety messages have perhaps evolved over time. We used to say some things in schools that were very blunt. We used to say to people, don't give out any personal information online, because if you do, that's really dangerous. And yet you can't do anything on the internet today without giving some personal information out. So I think we have to, refine the messages somewhat. I think, to ask the question, what do we think eSafety is really about? You'll see as the screen fills up while I'm talking that, this is too much for schools to do on their own. There needs to be a partnership, in my view. I think parents need to be involved in that partnership. Schools do. I think young people do. And also probably the industry needs to be involved as well. And Sabrina and I are both part of the InSafe network. And we kind of coordinate the 32 safer internet centers from around Europe. And I think we do have conversations, very positive conversations with Facebook and Microsoft and Google and so on. I suppose I always think they could do a little bit more, but that's always going to be the case. They are at the table. We are having discussions with them, and you could all add things to this slide, because there are a lot of things that eSafety covers. The 5 that I've just highlighted, just a really quick word. Cyberbullying, we have a network of helplines which I'm responsible for coordinating. They're around the EU, and every sort of 3 months they submit data saying what people have called them with concerns about, and the number one issue for the last 5 years has been cyberbullying, which probably doesn't surprise many of you. And we can certainly share more of the data around individual countries and so on if that's helpful. The second one that I've highlighted, extremism, online extremism, radicalization. And I think it's clearly at the top of the agenda because of some of the atrocities that we've seen going on around the world, in recent months and years. And clearly, terrorist organizations are using the power of the internet and social media to groom, to radicalize, to encourage young people to take that path. So we do need to be very aware of it, and it's something that the Safer Internet Centres are trying to deal with at the moment. Down at the bottom, inappropriate content, and I think there's a real challenge here for parents in particular, the inappropriate content that you see online, I think, is so much more extreme from the things that I was able to see when I was at school. I think that's how the internet has changed things. And many of you will have heard people say that you're only ever 2 clicks away from, some of the worst content we can imagine. Next to that, I've highlighted pressure. I think for an awful lot of young people, social media in particular puts them under a huge amount of pressure. The pressure to have the perfect life online, the pressure to behave a certain way, to look a certain way, the pressure that you feel when you upload your content and nobody likes it, nobody has any comments to make and so on. I think that can be a very isolating place to be. And the last one, and I'm sure that you all know exactly why we've put this here, online reputation. Online reputation, everybody has one, and I think online reputation, it will be used when decisions are being made about a job that we've applied for or a place at university or whatever it might be. And I think one of the things that's changed with regards to online reputation just in the last few months, really, I think students would sometimes say to me, well, online reputation is clearly very important, so I will just delete my Facebook profile, delete my Instagram profile, I'll stop using Twitter, and then when I apply for my job or my place at university, nobody will find anything online. There was some research done in November last year, which found that 35% of employers, universities, recruitment companies, so 35% of them said, if we don't find you online, then we will not be interviewing you. So it's not good enough any longer just for young people to say, I won't be in that space. I think we have to be in that space, but we have to curate a kind of positive identity, a professional identity, I guess. So one of the key issues I've already mentioned is cyberbullying, and I think cyberbullying, that there are lots of different aspects to cyberbullying. I think we can all appreciate the nasty, unpleasant individual who is going to use technology, to sort of upset somebody else. I think what I see an awful lot of in schools certainly are the thoughtless comments, the kind of unintentional comments perhaps, where somebody says something and they've genuinely done it because they think it's going to be amusing. They think all of their friends will find it funny. It's a bit of banter, sometimes people say, but there's no malice intended. And the trouble is, if those people spoke to us face to face, with the benefit of facial expressions and body language and some context around it, I think everybody would take it in the right way. But as soon as you do it on Facebook or Snapchat or Instagram or AskFM, you strip away the facial expressions and the body language and the tone of voice. And I think some people get the joke and some people clearly don't. I mentioned just before the information that we get from our helplines, and you can see there from the graph that cyberbullying, is far and away the most commonly discussed issue when young people contact the helplines. It's interesting to see that privacy comes in second place, although quite a bit lower. Privacy covers, how to protect privacy, but also the abuse of privacy as well. But I think also quite interesting is this love relationships and sexuality online. I think that really is something that young people find difficult to manage. I can just see there in the chat window somebody saying, everyone's pretending that they're somebody else, and I totally agree. I think it really does put people under pressure. We've seen some of the stories where people on Instagram have said, that they've posted taken hundreds of images before they got the perfect one. And I think that's a very challenging place to be. One of the other things that I'm sure won't surprise any of you about cyberbullying is that a lot of research over a couple of years now really is identifying that girls are twice as likely as boys to be victims of cyberbullying. There's a lot of reasons for this, and we will talk about this more during the learning event. But if I just give you three very quickly, I think girls post more content. They're also not loyal to one social networking site, so quite regularly they'll have profiles on several. And also they're much more open about their emotions, that they will say how they're feeling, they will say what's upsetting them and so on. And I think that they do feel vulnerable. A student said to me recently, that every time she posts something onto Instagram, she said, I take a risk. And when I asked her to explain that, she said, she will post something that is important to her, that's special to her, but she runs the risk that actually other people might not agree and they may laugh at her or ridicule her or make her feel small. And just some sort of European research, which I thought might be useful, might be interesting. This was some work that was done by Net Children Go Mobile, which was the sort of follow-on from the EU Kids Online study that many of you may be familiar with. And again, we'll talk about this in more detail. This was looking at young people who had been bullied online or offline in the past 12 months. And you can see that, in terms of the numbers who were, it's certainly up around, the sort of 25-30%. And it varies, from country to country. And it would be great, to sort of have some conversations with all of you to try and understand perhaps why some of these sort of figures do vary. The second key issue, and I'll finish with this one, is online relationships. And I think we're getting an awful lot more information now about, how the internet is being used to facilitate online relationships. And I think that can be a very positive thing, but it does bring challenges too. We have all sorts of, concerns around things like sexting and exploitation online. Many of the dating apps, which may be, fine for adults to use, they weren't created for 12-year-olds to use, and I think there are always concerns around that. You can see there some of the figures. 60% of young people saying that they'd be lonely if they couldn't talk to their friends via technology. I think that's not particularly surprising, but we are seeing other bits of research that suggest that perhaps young people's social skills aren't actually developing in the way that they should because they're so used to actually typing a response rather than actually having a conversation with somebody. And again, you can see some of the statistics there. 30% of teens saying that they feel under pressure to only post content that makes them look good to other people. So it's all about image and trying to make sure that they create that perfect life online, which is difficult to manage and potentially quite sad, I think. And as I say, I think just recently we've had an awful lot more information that's looked at this, and it's also recognizing the differences. And I think that's important. I think as we, get more skilled in sort of asking the right questions, I think we can perhaps target the resources that we have a little bit more accurately, perhaps. Girls, 57% of girls, as opposed to 28% of boys saying I feel left out, I feel isolated if I see photographs of other people online together. And these things always happened in schools, but I think when it's online, everybody knows, everybody sees, so it can be difficult. I can see somebody's asking about the slides. Absolutely, of course. And what I'll also do is make sure that you have the links to all of the different bits of research. I think Sabrina gave you our sort of Twitter handles before. I'm very, very happy to share all the research and all the links with people if it's helpful. And you can imagine that there's an awful lot more than this if people want more specific information. And again, I apologise. There's lots of text on this slide. As I say, you can look at this at your leisure later on. But I think this is a big part of young people's lives, and we shouldn't worry too much about that. But I think we have to give them the space to talk to us about the things that challenge them. And I think what's particularly interesting, if you look at some of the recent research, it suggests that young people are becoming less and less likely to actually talk to their parents if something happens online. When I ask them why, when I'm in school, they tell me that they fear losing their connectivity. So if they tell a parent that something's happened, the reaction of the parent could be, okay, let me take your iPad away, let me take away your internet connection. And I agree, somebody's saying flirty pictures are so usual. Absolutely. Selfies, that the fact that Apple now have given us a selfie folder shows that it absolutely is usual, and it's what young people are doing and what adults are doing as well. I think the problem, arises around that sort of thing when it becomes a sort of a nude selfie, if you like, or a sexting type image. So, difficult, but we need to have conversations with them. Okay, I think this is now the point where I'm going to pass across to Sabrina. I apologize about the sound quality at the beginning. I hope that most people could hear most of what I was saying, but over to you, Sabrina.
Thank you, Karl. I will directly continue talking about, as I said before, like young people spend a lot of time online and most likely in social networks. And I don't know if any of you might have been already in this situation. For example, you're at your computer and you're going, for example, I go to Brussels Airlines and I have a look on where my next holiday should go to, so I spend a good amount of time on the Brussels Airlines website, and then I realize that's already quite late and I have to go to sleep because I have to get up in the morning for work. And then on the next day I switch on my computer again, I check my Facebook, if I have to do some work. For example, I'm German, so if I have to write some reports, usually I have an online dictionary open, and then all of a sudden all of the advertisings I receive at the sidebar top or button are from Brussels Airlines. And I think many of you already have been in this situation, and then you question yourself, how does Facebook know that I would like to travel? Why is it giving me these kind of suggestions, or other websites I visit this day? I had a similar experience when I was living in London. I was desperately looking for a flat, so I subscribed to a lot of rental agencies, and then I had the same problem even months after I found my flat. Still, when I would log on to Facebook, or if I would go on some websites, online dictionaries, so on and so forth, I would still get advertisements for flats in London. So this is kind of, we see the internet somehow is connected, the different platforms are connected, and kind of what we are doing, there's kept track of it. I don't know if many of you heard probably about digital footprints, that we say we have to be very careful because they can't really be deleted. And this brings me to the third topic that we will also in deepen talk about when we are doing the learning event in April, which is big data, which is basically the information given by and collected from individual internet users accumulated to an enormous mass data. And I'm really sorry. Here we go. I just had the chat open. So this is what we call big data, and you see from the picture I put on the bottom right-hand side. This picture, I think, shows very well how we can understand big data. That simply everything is connected with each other. Our computer, we can connect it with, we can connect it to our mobile phone. For example, if we are having music on our computer, we can easily put it on our mobile phones. We can put various things in the so-called cloud. That's also a word that is recently becoming very popular. We can, for example, keep track of our bank accounts online. We can arrange our travels online. We can talk with friends all over the world via various social networks. We can use Skype. The reason we have this live meeting tool here. So you see there's a very easy way that we are all connected. Another example is if some of you may know when you are active on Twitter and you use a certain hashtag a lot of time, or you like all your tweets and retweets are for example about eSafety or about another topic, you see that the suggestions of people and companies to follow are in line with your tweets. So there's something that is keeping track on all of this, and this is also what we tend to call the Internet of Things, this massive connectivity. Here in Brussels at a European level, there are a lot of discussions in regards to a digital single market. I also said there's this word cloud, that we can store information in this cloud that we can access anytime. And then obviously for a lot of people, there is then the question of privacy, like how is this even possible if everything I do online keeps track of. So what about my privacy? Because obviously in an online world we want to have a privacy, so we also, when we are going online, we also want that our privacy is respected. In this regard, and as Karl already said, we are working together with national organizations in 32 countries. Our Finnish partners, they have developed an excellent resource, and we will also integrate this resource in our learning event. They have developed this research which is called the Digital Gold Miner's Guidebook, which entirely discusses various topics in regards to big data. You can see the guidebook is for students 13 and plus, and it discusses 4 areas. First of all, big data, what is it, how does it work, so on and so forth, and then also how is big data utilized. Then it discusses, and I mentioned this before, and I think everybody of us is particularly interested in this, is about what about our privacy, how can we take care of this in an age when we are talking about the Internet of Things and big data, and also how can we control our own data that we are sharing. Here I put the link for you, and as I said, for those we have woken their interest, you will receive many more information about this guidebook when you decide to join us for the learning event. And we hope that during these 12 days you will be able to find out more about big data and also get good opportunities to receive some more materials and exercises about big data. Another topic that is also equally important, and it's also recently in discussion on a more governmental level, is copyright. What does even copyright mean? I've pointed to a resource, to a research which is from Ofcom a couple of years ago, but I think the percentage is still growing. It says that around 47% of users cannot identify confidentially whether their online content they downloaded, streamed or share is legal or not. And I think this is very important, because when we're going online we need to be aware of what we are doing online, that if we, for example, watch a movie or if we download music online, that we are in a safe space. And it's kind of a little help also for young people to understand that actually copyright does not mean that you have the right to copy. And I think this is also very useful for them to understand. For example, if they have to write an essay, and most likely people are going online, they would have a first look at websites such as Wikipedia. And we know that in Wikipedia everybody of us can contribute, so we know that maybe some of the information we get there might not be 100% correct. And even if we take information online, we need to reference, we need to quote, we need to make sure that we point out where we found this information. And also when we are looking for downloads or for streams, we have to be careful. Likewise also when we are sharing things and also in respect to people around us. If I share pictures of my friends or my family, and we know from researchers there's a lot of, for example, parents are really easy, tend to share pictures of their kids online, of their babies online, and this is also a very controversial topic, and we actually when I give eSafety talks, and especially to teenagers, that we really need to think twice before we post. And if we are really comfortable, for example, with sharing a picture online, we also would need to think that we really need to be comfortable in case this picture would be shared offline. So if I'm really comfortable with having this picture I just shared on my Facebook, if I'm very fine with it, if this picture also would hang on Times Square in New York, that everybody could see it that would pass by, then I'm also okay with sharing something online. But I think this is very helpful for examples that you can give to them, that if a picture they would like to share online, if they're fine to have this in front of their city hall in the offline world so that everybody can see it, then they're also good to have this online. As a research that discusses copyrights, but also various other topics in regards to online safety are the Web We Want handbooks, and I'm sure many of you are already familiar with the material. The Web We Want handbooks, on the left-hand side we have a handbook for teens, on the right-hand side is the handbook for educators, is a supporting handbook for both pupils and for the teachers to start the online conversation in the classroom. The Web We Want handbook for teens is a simple exercise book that allows your students to do various exercises in regards to online safety, for example, copyright, but also we talked about online relation, participation in social networks. And you would see that a lot of exercises in regards to online safety not necessarily need any fancy devices. Sometimes a paper and a pen and a good conversation is the starting point. And then also we have the Educator's Handbook, which is a collection of lesson plans and worksheets. And actually a lot of these lesson plans and worksheets have been written by some eTwinning teachers. I see some of you, some of them are also here tonight. Hi Maxime, I hope you're doing well. They have been very enthusiastic, and they have written great lesson plans, great ideas. In the learning event you will be able to find out also a little bit more about different kind of exercises, very simple exercises, because we know that many of you don't have the opportunity in your curriculum to do very long and extensive exercises in regards to online safety, and also the lesson plans are not necessarily written by IT teachers. We had a music teachers, we had a history teacher, so there's a lot of fun activities, and this is how we see these two handbooks coming together in the classroom. The Teens Handbook is by now available in 12 different languages, and the Educator's Handbook in 8 languages. And I already saw in the chat you will be able to find both handbook to download for free on webwewant.eu. And then we hope that with this handbook you will be able to kind of become a digital guide, and that you're able to start the online conversation in the classroom. And also, if you have more questions, or if you would like to keep up to date in regards to any activities we're doing around the Web We Want, you may find on Facebook and Twitter the hashtag WebWeWantEU, and you will find more information, for example, when we are launching, for example, a new language, or when we're putting more material on the website. And as I said before, there will be also a model on the Web We Want and on copyrights and big data, and also cyberbullying and online relation in the learning event we are starting at the 1st of April. Before giving you the floor for any questions, and Karl and myself, we're very happy to take them. We are, and I think many of you have already participated over the past years to activities around Safer Internet Day. Is our annual campaign, which is very successful. It's a global campaign that has developed over the past years with actions across the world, from Australia over Europe to America. And we also hope that you join us next year. Safer Internet Day will be on Tuesday, 7th of February, to stand together and promote this day and dedicate this day for a safer and better internet. We know that a lot of schools are very doing great activities, so we're always happy to see what is happening in your school, the ideas you have with your pupils. So we hope that also next year you will join us. And if you wish to receive more information about Safer Internet Day, you have saferinternetday.org, which is the URL to the website. I think we are almost finished with our presentation. I think both of us, we very delighted to be here with you this afternoon. Thank you very much. As I said, we are happy to take any questions. And we spoke already, we mentioned it already quite some time. We will start a learning event around eSafety from the 1st to the 12th of April. Many things we have told you, many resources we have shown you this evening, you will be able to find during the learning event, and there will be many more. I put the link here, but I'm sure you're very familiar with how to register and how to find the various learning events the eTwinning coordination team is offering. So I hope that we woken your interest and that we will see you in a couple of weeks for this learning event. Thank you very much. If there are any questions from your side, please feel free to ask them now. If there's anything later, or you also will have the possibility during the learning event to ask us any questions, please feel free to contact us anytime. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sabrina. Do you have any other questions for Sabrina or Karl? The comments are very nice in the chat, saying that you were very clear and everything was very interesting and useful. And as Sabrina was saying, I hope that you all join us in the learning event. The application will open on the 27th of March. So you just need to go to the professional development area and check the learning events and apply for this one. We have one question, I think. Have the parents, no, sorry, do you think it would be vital to have the parents involved to help students with internet addiction? Would you like to answer this question? One of you, Karl or Sabrina?
Yeah, I mean, I can come in there quickly if that's okay. I think parents are crucial in this. I think a lot of it depends on the age of the child, the age of the student. But I mean, if I give you an example, quite often, in fact, I was talking to a group of parents last night in a school, and one lady said to me that, you know, her daughter, who is 11, keeps her iPhone in her bedroom overnight because she uses it as an alarm clock. Now, you know, what I said to her is you can buy an alarm clock that you wind up and you can't make phone calls with those. And I think sometimes parents, that they're a bit weak, maybe a bit lazy, and it's a bit difficult to actually challenge. But I think, you know, children need to have some boundaries in place. And I think sometimes, you know, parents say, I'm taking the phone away because I don't trust you and so on. That's probably not the basis of a good conversation that's going to go anywhere, but actually saying, I'm going to take the phone away at night because you need to go to sleep at night, that might be a sort of better approach. But I do think, in answer to the question, that it's crucial. I think that they have to be on board, and I think schools and parents have to work together to give a sort of a joint message, and you know, if there's some synergy there, if they're on the same page, it just makes things a lot easier. I hope we can, you know, discuss a lot of these things perhaps in the forum once the learning event starts as well, because it's fascinating and it's great to get different views on it.
Thank you, Karl. Some other question? Sorry, we are trying to read the comments. I think it's reinforcing, Milena is reinforcing what Karl was mentioning.
Hello to everyone. I wanted to take part in this conversation because I was actually presenting the cyberbullying from my school on the second international conference made by OPSA in my country. And actually we were talking about the cyberbullying and bullying in my school and how we deal with the problem, because it was about how we can use the peer mediation for actually solving this problem. But on the other hand, we said that we had a lot of problems with the parents because they didn't want to admit that their children have any kind of a problem, and they didn't want to accept that their children are actually cyberbullying on the Facebook mostly. And the second thing that the second problem that we had is actually that parents always find a way to they are not, they don't know what is cyberbullying, and they do not know about the effects of that. And we were talking about the home situation, about sociological status of this family. So it's not only about the internet. We need to look deeper in the family, and we need to educate parents first. That was actually our conclusion that we had in our school.
Thank you
Maybe
for sharing
we
this
were,
experience.
yeah, maybe we were wrong, but I don't know. I would like to hear other people.
Thank you for sharing this experience, Sabrina. And Karl, would you like to comment?
I think I absolutely, thanks very much, Milena. I think I absolutely agree with you. I think for a lot of parents, obviously, the online world, that's something completely new. When we talk about young people online and older people online, it's like we refer young people to like digital natives, while the older generation is more like the digital dinosaur, the digital migrant. So obviously they have the feeling, okay, my daughter, my son, they kind of grow up with the internet. They for sure know what they are doing. In terms of cyberbullying, I think for a lot of parents the easiest solution is to tell their kids then just don't go online, but this does not make the conversation stop, obviously, and I absolutely agree with Milena saying that we need to include parents into the conversation, that we need to find a good conversation, a good link between parents and teachers, because I believe that many of you were already in this situation where you receive a lot of questions from young people, and some of those questions that would rather something for the parents to take care of and to answer. So the young people are kind of like getting advice back and forth between parents and teachers. A lot of parents have this attitude saying, oh, that's something you should learn in school about. So I think we really need to like pull together and some at one's strengths, and also empower each other to support each other, not just leave it to the parents, not just leave it to the teachers. And I think then if we all go for this common strength and then support together the young people facing cyberbullying or any other online challenge they may have, I think that's definitely the way to go.
Thanks, Sabrina.
Can I
Karl?
just, yeah, if I can just add one thing, some people may already be aware of this. I'm just going to post a link into the chat box. There's a project, a European project called Enable, which is a European network against bullying, and it looks at sort of tackling bullying by developing social and emotional learning skills. So there's a lot of peer education involved in it, but there's also a huge amount of resources which are available. And it's all fairly new, but if you have a look at the link, you'll be able to sort of get more information. But I totally share the views that are being expressed that this has to be a partnership, absolutely, and there's a lot of work to do with parents. I think the challenge is how you reach out to all the parents, because I don't know about all of you, but certainly whenever I do a parents' evening in school, the parents who come are the parents who probably don't need to come. They're the ones that you really want to reach, or the ones who aren't there. But yeah.
Thanks, Karl. By the way, we will have an online seminar like this about Enable in May. So pay attention to to the calendar and apply for that one as well. So I would like just to give, our time is finishing, maybe one more question or comment. I just would like to remind you of the learning event that the applications will open on the 27th of March. I would love to thank Karl and Sabrina for being here with us today. Thank you so much. It has been very interesting. We will publish the recording of this seminar in the eTwinning portal, as well as the PowerPoint, the slides. Also, you can find the slides in the information of the event on eTwinning Live. To finalize and to say goodbye, I would just like to remind you the next online seminar will be on digital competencies in the classroom. It will be on the 7th of April at 5 p.m. And our speaker will be Fernando Trujillo, and he's a teacher trainer on these areas. So hope to see you there. Thank you for being here, and I wish you a great weekend.